Chairman, and I'd first like to ask unanimous consent that the following document be placed in the record. December 7th, article by Cheryl Atkinson entitled Documents ATF Used Fast and Furious to Make Case for Gun Regulations.
Without objection, they'll be made a part of the record.
I thank Mr. Chairman. I thank you for holding this hearing. It is deja vu all over again. We are beginning the process of getting to the bottom, to the truth of Fast and Furious. I take exception to my colleague on the other side of the aisle, Mr. Conyers. What is too important is the Second Amendment. The idea that regulations without any approval of Congress have been added to create databases in the southwestern states, including California, Arizona, Mexico, New Mexico, Texas and New Mexico, clearly shows that, in fact, this administration is more interested in building databases, more interested in talking about gun control than actually controlling the drugs and guns that they had control over, whether it's money laundering or, in fact, it is the flow of guns knowingly. Just one individual was allowed to buy, under the auspices of the Justice Department, 700 weapons, knowing exactly who they were going to before they ever went. Our discovery, with the help of Senator Grassley, has shown that this was not an accident and that this project was failed and flawed from the beginning. It is not just ATF, it is not just DEA. In fact, it includes the Department of Homeland Security in a task force that obviously did not respect the safeguards of the American people. Brian Terry is dead today, in my opinion, because of this failed program. But even today, we will not hear justice taking responsibility. They will instead talk about the 2 guns that were recovered. Yes, they were from Fast and Furious, but ballistics are inconclusive. And yet this Justice Department is not looking for a 3rd weapon. They are not looking for who killed Brian Terry. Well, they try to have the plausible deniability that Fast and Furious may not have been responsible. That's reprehensible to the family suffering under Brian Terry's needless murder. Mr. Chairman, Fast and Furious began in November 2009. It was a new operation building on a failed operation under the previous administration. The difference in the previous administration is there was coordination with the Mexican government. They made a real effort under wide receiver to pass off a small amount of weapons and track them. This program, just the opposite. Even knowing the drug cartels that were going to receive them, they simply allowed them to go to the stash house. And Mr. Attorney General, today I hope you will not point fingers and say that somehow this is not organic. There is nothing more organic than law enforcement officer being gunned down because of a failure to protect within the Department of Justice. There is nothing more organic in Congress's responsibility than, in fact, following up on Congress being lied to. My committee, just next door, was systematically lied to by your own representatives. There is a high likelihood the individual was deliberately duped, but he was duped by people who still work for you today. Still work for you today. The President has said he has full confidence in this Attorney General. I have no confidence in a President who has full confidence in an Attorney General who has, in fact, not terminated or dealt with the individuals, including key lieutenants, who from the very beginning had some knowledge and long before Brian Terry was gunned down, knew enough to stop this program. There has been recrimination. There has been an attempt to find scapegoats. Many of the people that have been pointed to do share in the blame. But, Mr. Attorney General, the blame must go to your desk, and you must today take the real responsibility. Why haven't you terminated the many people involved? Why is it that we're still hearing about inconsistencies that don't even take the correct responsibility for Border Patrol agent Brian Terry's death? Those are the things we want to hear today. And, Mr. Attorney General, I respect the fact that you said in the Senate that you gave truthful testimony, but I would like to hear when a few days becomes a few weeks or a few weeks becomes a few months, are we to have the confidence that the President says he has in you and the many people up and down the chain of command at Justice who saw this program, this operation, and let it happen, and the many people who called your legislative affairs representative, who's sitting right behind you, caused him to bring false testimony to the committee. It is unheard of for testimony or for letters or testimony to be taken back. They've had to be taken back because of people who still work for justice. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your indulgence, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak here, and would ask that Blake Farenthold, a member of my committee who has been intimately involved in the investigation, also be allowed to sit on the dais under the same terms as Mr. Schiff.
Committee, is he a member of Congress?
He is a member of Congress.
Mr. Issa, thank you for your
He is a
comments.
freshman from Texas. He's impacted by these gun control regulations. He is an attorney.
I understand there is no room right now, but we'll consider that request in just a minute. As much as I would like to have a Texas colleague up at the podium,
You got a few, but he's a good one.
He is not a former member of the Judiciary Committee, though we certainly appreciate his expertise on the subject. So let's wait until we have room, and we'll take it up at that point.
Thank the gentleman.